Welcome back to World of Immersion. Today we're going to be ranking the top 4 worst and best types of inversions that you can find on a roller coaster. Now, I want to specify that I won't be ranking specific inversions on roller coasters like Velocicoaster's Mosasaurus Roll or Storm Runner's Flying Snake Dive, but rather just inversions that can typically be found on a coaster. But before we get started today, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any cool videos. I also want to mention that we just released merch. The link will be in the description. We are super excited for this. Go ahead and check out our merch. I personally just bought a t-shirt and they look really good. So yeah, go ahead and check that out. Also, be sure to leave your favorite inversions in the comments down below because we are really curious to see how you guys rank the inversions. Obviously, your opinion will probably differ from ours because this is totally subjective, and with a ranking like this, it really depends on the coaster, but we're just trying to rank overall what we think are the worst and best inversions on coasters. With that being said, let's get started into the 4th worst inversion. So coming in at number 4 for the worst inversion, we have sea serpent rolls. Now, like I said earlier, in some cases these inversions can be fun. We just think overall this is a lacking inversion. The only scenario where this inversion could be fun is if you go through it slowly, where you get hang time, but oftentimes you don't go through it fast enough to have an intense experience, and you don't go through it slow enough to have a hang time experience. So instead, you kind of just get this forceless twisty section. If you don't know what a sea serpent roll is, it's practically a cobra roll, but you exit the inversion the opposite direction from you enter in the second half loop. Now, we do think that this is slightly more fun than a cobra roll because of that aspect. But overall, it's just a lacking inversion with barely any forces, and overall just not that fun to experience. Now, coming in at the number 4 best inversion, we have the vertical loop. This is a classic inversion. You can find this on so many roller coasters. I'm pretty sure it's probably the most used inversion on a roller coaster. But what makes this inversion so good? It's the forces. Unlike the sea serpent roll, no matter what speed you're traveling at, this inversion will be spectacular. If you're going really fast, like on Batman at Six Flags Magic Mountain, you will have a very, very intense loop, which can be loads of fun. And if you're going through the inversion slowly, like on Full Throttle at Six Flags Magic Mountain, you'll have an immense amount of hang time, also making the inversion a lot of fun. Overall, vertical loops just don't really seem to be bad. Now, of course, they can be rough on older coasters, and like any inversion, there are bad ones out there, but we just think overall, vertical loops are loads of fun, and there's a reason why they are the most used inversion. Now, coming in at the number 3 spot for the 3rd worst inversion you can find on some roller coasters is the Sidewinder. Now, this element I have a huge problem with, and that is it kills any forces you're about to achieve with the corkscrew. What happens is you go through the vertical loop, and I will admit you can get some forceful moments on loops, which can be fun, but then any hang time you're about to get gets killed by going into the corkscrew. This literally kills the best part of the element. And in general, they're just not very enjoyable. It feels like a useless element that really just takes up more feet to track. Now, coming in at number 3 for the 3rd best inversion, we have the 0G roll. And let me just say, I personally really love this element. Anything that involves 0G, I think you can assume is going to be good. I've never personally ridden a coaster that had a 0G roll that wasn't loads of fun. The idea of going up high and then twisting quickly so you experience 0Gs is just such a fun concept, and it gives you one of the best transition of forces that you can experience on any element. The feeling of twisting and floating midair while going through this element is unlike any other. And to be honest, as much as I am not a huge fan of Scream at Six Flags Magic Mountain, the 0G roll actually stands out. It's a lot of fun. And in general, I just think 0G rolls are really fun elements. Now, coming in at number 2 for the next worst element, we have the cutback. Now, if you don't know what this is essentially a corkscrew that does half of the corkscrew and then doesn't complete it fully, but just goes back the other way. Now, our issue with this element is that it doesn't complete any sort of force movement. You don't go through it slow enough to experience 0Gs, and you don't go through it fast enough to get sort of a whippy feeling. So instead, you just sort of kind of twist around and then twist back, and it's kind of a pointless element almost. And I'll say sometimes if the cutback is smooth enough, it can be fun because you can sort of get a whippy feeling on it, but in general, it's just not really that fun of an element. Now, coming in at number 2 for the 2nd best inversion, we have heartline rolls or twists or barrel rolls or however you want to name this thing. But it doesn't matter what its name is, these are incredible inversions. Now, I think especially the Mosasaurus roll on Velocicoaster, I know I said I wasn't going to specifically mention that, but I think we all know that that is a heartline roll. They just call it a Mosasaurus roll. But the Mosasaurus roll in Velocicoaster, I think, really shows what Heartline rolls can do. If you go through that fast enough, you will experience this very whippy feeling, and then the feeling of being shot out underneath you. Now, what Heartline rolls do is they make your body the center of gravity, which gives you a really sort of like zero G, also negative G experience, which, like I said, can make it feel like you are falling out of your seat as you go through that inversion. And just overall, barrel rolls are incredible. They're such a fun experience. And I think Velocicoaster really shows that the best, but so do many other coasters. Now, coming in at number 1 for the worst inversion on a roller coaster, we have the Cobra roll. And essentially, this is a worse version of the Sea Serpent roll. Now, we have a similar reason for why this is such a bad inversion as to the Sea Serpent roll. And this is because it just really doesn't give you anything. You go through that first half loop, which is, it can be forceful, can give you a little bit of hang time sometimes, and then you sort of kill your hang time by twisting into a corkscrew, right? So any hang time you had there, it kind of just gets killed by twisting out of the inversion. And then you twist back into a corkscrew, and I think that moment right there, the second corkscrew, is where you could get some hang time, but then you just sort of go back into this half loop, and it's almost like it's about to give you some good force, and then it just takes it away by doing something. And so really, these inversions are just not fun. They're like the cutback. It's almost just like length of track that they're adding. I personally don't enjoy Cobra rolls just when I'm riding, and they can be very, 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 very rough. I think most Vekoma boomerangs have very, 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 very bad Cobra rolls. They're super rough. You can get loads of headbanging, which is why we rank it the worst inversion that's typically found on roller coasters. Now, here we go. This is the moment you've probably been waiting for, the number 1 best inversion that you can find on roller coasters, and this is the Zero G stall. When I first rode the Zero G stall on Twisted Colossus back in 2017, I was blown away. I had never experienced something like that. The feeling of just twisting and then hanging there is absurd. The amount of negative and zero Gs that you get from that inversion is out of this world. Something I love to do when I go through zero G stalls is I love to make my body go limp. And I sort of just dangle there because the hang time is so good. This element incorporates whippiness, air time, and hang time all really well into one element. And I think that in general, just going through a zero G stall on any roller coaster is so much fun. I always look forward to the zero G stall on Twisted Colossus. Every time I ride Velocicoaster, I look forward to the zero G stall. It's always, for me, my favorite part of a roller coaster. And that is why we rank it number 1 on our list. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, your opinion definitely varies from ours. So let us know what your favorite and least favorite inversions are on roller coasters in the comments down below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos, and we will catch you in the next one.